Right, I think we're live and we have a picture of the hot cross buns on screen already. There you go. Bit of a spoiler for what's coming later on. Thank you very much for everybody for joining me and welcome to this month's live Q&A, April 2023. Let me know, as always, with these live videos, if you can hear me and you can see me okay. Vicky's listening back. Apparently we're good to go. So yeah, welcome. We're going to be here for about another hour and a half. The camera is not plugged in, so I'm hoping that we have enough battery to last for the Q&A. I thought it might be all right, but then I've not turned it off. Can you just check in the top right of the screen? It should say how long is left. Anyway, if it's looking low, if it dies in about an hour's time, I'll quickly plug it in and we'll carry on. So yeah, what's going to happen is, first of all, I'm going to go through all of the questions that we've been asked in advance on the BGG Guild, and then we're going to go to the live questions. So big thank you to everybody who's asked questions in advance. If you are interested, I do have a guild over on Board Game Geek. It is guild number 2258. If you are watching this video, please join the guild, subscribe, and you are welcome to post any comments on there. Just noticed the chat box is not working. That should be there. There you go. Yeah, guild number 2258 on Board Game Geek. And a few days before these live Q&As, I always post a thread on there and invite people to ask questions in advance. If you have any questions and you are watching this live, please put them in the chat and start with the word question. If you put the word question in capital letters, Vicky will pick up that question, transfer it to the doc. And yes, I'm currently sat outside. As you can tell, we've had torrential rain here for the last 2 or 3 days in Devon. So yeah, and it's raining right now, as you can see from behind me. So yeah, we'll crack on. I'll also give you an update on the contest, who won last month's contest, and details of this month, because one of you can win £50 worth of games voucher from Gameslaw. Right, let's head on over to the questions that we've been asked in advance. And we're going to start again with biscuit-related questions, but this time, not from Brian. This time, Gavin Kenny's getting in on the biscuit-related questions first. So, questions from Gavin. When we go abroad, do we specifically look out for interesting biscuits to try? The answer to that is a disappointing, probably a no. I mean, you know, when we go abroad, not that we go away that often, but we're going to start going away more on holiday as of this year. You know, if we have breakfast or something and there are biscuits or pastries to try. If you're watching in America, biscuits are not what biscuits are in America. They are different things over here. Then we'll sample them and we'll try them, but we don't specifically go out seeking them. Would I like to see a biscuit-themed board game, perhaps rival biscuit factories competing for market share? I think, I mean, we do have Food Chain Magnet. There are probably some other food-related board games as well. I mean, for me, the theme doesn't really matter. As long as the game's a good game, then I would have no problem playing a biscuit-themed board game. But I think you got it right. I think rival biscuit factories competing to try and invent new biscuits that are exciting and set up production lines and manage the cost of production versus, you know, the cost of sale and marketing it. Basically, it's anything to do with that. But yeah, I'd be up for that. So Brian is going to complete the biscuit related questions. Do people coming round bring biscuits for us to try? Generally, no. Occasionally somebody will bring me a box of Jaffa cakes. But we don't actually eat that many biscuits in the house. We try and eat healthy. So we don't really actually have biscuits in the house. And people tend to know that, and people tend not to bring them round. If we're having an all-day games day and people are going to be here for food, then somebody might bring some round, but we try and avoid eating them if we can. Have we ever been caught short by not having enough biscuits when people come round to visit? Occasionally we will put out a plate of biscuits, but generally I don't think we've ever been caught short. Right, which game currently available as a standard production, standard in quotes, would I like to see as a premium deluxeified total blinged out version? And this is a question for you watching in the chat. Do you have a game right now which is currently available, which you like, which doesn't have a deluxeified version of it? Now, when I was thinking about this, because this is an interesting question, there's a lot of games for which this has already been done. You know, Terraforming Mars, for example. But also there are games that instantly sprung to mind, which I thought, oh, wait a minute. Like I was thinking, oh, Anachrony. And then I thought, well, hang on a minute. The version of Anachrony is already blinged out, you know. So I was trying to think about it. And the only one that came to mind would be Feast for Odin. A totally blinged out version of Feast for Odin would have, instead of just tiles that you put on your board, they would be like 3D printed pieces on tiles. It would be stupid. It would be crazy expensive. It would be prohibitively expensive. But then again, I thought that about Castles of Burgundy, and people will still buy it. So yeah, I'll go for Feast for Odin, but let me know what you think. And if you're watching this video back afterwards, because we've got 50 people watching live, these videos normally get about 1,000 views. So if you're one of the 950 people that's watching this back afterwards, leave me a comment in the YouTube video. What game would you like to see have a completely deluxeified premium version? Next question. Have I played any games that I thought were pretty good mechanically, but a poor production, including art, that has put me off ever playing again? There is one that comes straight to mind, and that is Trismegistus. Now, I'm generally a big fan of Board and Dice and the games that they produce, and generally speaking, their games have good artwork, good graphic design, and pretty good rulebooks these days. However, Trismegistus, I think the Board and Dice team went on holiday and replaced their entire staff with otters, because there might be a good game in there. And I think there probably is a good game in there, but the graphic design is some of the worst graphic design I've ever seen in a game. And the rulebook is one of the worst rulebooks that I've ever read. And that seriously put me off playing again, because it was painful. And in an age where I've got hundreds of games that are great, unfortunately, that game just didn't make the cut. So yeah, that was one that I can think of. But just on that, if a game is good, the fact that it doesn't look good or might be artistically not great wouldn't put me off playing again. Yeah. In that case, though, it was the graphic design rather than the artwork. I don't mind games with bad artwork, but graphic design that actually hurts your experience of playing the game, that's the worst thing. Right, and finally, Brian has asked about our homework questions from last month. So sorry, Brian, but we haven't had the chocolate macaroon chocolate hobnobs yet, and we haven't been to Aldi to buy any Oaties. So that's still on the list of things to do. Right, next question from Kevin. Did my recent play of Frostpunk improve or hurt its chances at the 2022 Game of the Year? I've had a think about this, and whilst and for those people who don't know, I did a solo playthrough of Frostpunk a couple of weeks ago, and I used the new official Explorer difficulty cards, because one of the criticisms of Frostpunk is that the game is too hard out of the box. The game comes with 2 difficulty levels, normal and hard, and then if you buy the expansion, you get an even more difficult difficulty setting called Survivor. Personally, I think they made the game, the base game, they made it too hard. And that is a black mark on the game. And they're going to release these new Explorer difficulty settings. There should be an announcement in a couple of weeks about those, about how people can get hold of them. And I have to say that I was in that group of people that was playing the game repeatedly and finding that my enjoyment of the game wasn't as much as I would have hoped, because it was just too hard, and it was starting to impact on my enjoyment. The new Explorer difficulty mode, I thoroughly enjoyed that game. I did find it easier, obviously. Whether it was a little too easy or not, I don't know. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to be playing on Explorer difficulty, certainly for my next couple of games. And then if I get better, I might then go to the normal difficulty, or I might find one that's somewhere in between. But to answer the question, no, it didn't. I'd already made my decision on where it's at. And if the Explorer difficulty cards were released with the game, then I would view it differently. But no, it hasn't actually changed my mind on that. And the second question was, how do you get hold of these new Explorer difficulty cards? So if you're interested, in that video that I did a couple of weeks ago, I showed Society 5, which is the one that I used. I rolled a d6 at the start of the video. Just before, to see which society card I would use. I do have all of them here on my computer. I'm not allowed to share them. But yeah, check out. There should be an announcement in the next couple of weeks about that. Right, next question from Mike. This is another really good question. What is the best game that I no longer own? Now, until recently, like in the last sort of 12 months or so, I did not get rid of good games. If a game was good, I would not get rid of it, because why would I get rid of a good game? However, in the last 12 months, I've realised eventually that I simply have too many games and I don't have enough room to store all of these games. Therefore, I am having to be more ruthless with games that I've gotten rid of. And certainly in the last year, I mean, GridCon last year, I put 75 of my own games, or 78 of my own games, into a charity raffle. And I had to change where the bar was, and I did get rid of a lot of good games. So what I've done, Mike, is I went to Board Game Geek, I ran a report, and I filtered it to all of the games that I previously owned. And there are some good ones on there. So games which I have gotten rid of recently. Now, I say recently, not counting Mage Knight and Capital Lux, because I've replaced those with newer versions. So technically, I owned the original version of Mage Knight. I got rid of that in a charity. I did a charity auction for it and got rid of that. And Capital Lux is a fantastic game, but I have Capital Lux 2, which is effectively the second edition. So not counting those. Deep Blue, I got rid of. That was okay. Gates of Mara, that was okay. Star Trek Fleet Captains, I think was okay. Siege of Rundar, Mobile Markets. They are just some games which I got rid of, but I think they are good games. It's just I don't have time to play all of the games, and I have to, as I have to draw the line somewhere. Right, Avron says, I've mentioned a number of games that I used to play a lot when I was younger. For example, Talisman. And I now consider them unplayable. I do. I consider games like Talisman, for me, unplayable. Have I ever commented on more classic games such as chess, checkers, backgammon, hearts, etc.? And how would I rate them now? It's really difficult because, I mean, first of all, have I ever commented on them? No, I haven't. I haven't talked about my opinions of those games. Nobody's asked me about my opinion of those games. And how would I rate them? Well, those games still stand up now. Those games are definitely in a totally different genre, and to some extent they are timeless. Chess, checkers, backgammon, I don't know hearts. I mean, I've heard of it, but I can't quite remember what it is. Those games were played tens, hundreds of years ago and are still being played now. And there are other games in that genre as well. I know how to play chess. I'm not very good at it. I know how to play checkers. I know how to play backgammon. So there's nothing wrong with those games. They're not my particular style of game. But yeah, they're still perfectly playable. They're not unplayable like some of the ones that I mention. Like Talisman, it just goes on and it's roll dice, move around a board, draw a card, completely random. It's unplayable for me. It still works as a game, but it's not the kind of game that I have any interest in playing. The classic games, like you've mentioned, I have no interest in playing them, but for different reasons. One of the things that I have come to realise, though, when I was a lot younger and we used to play games like chess, checkers, we used to play a lot of card games as a family. And I've found recently that there are some card games that we used to play a lot. So on a Sunday night, when I was a wee lad, when I was like maybe 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old or something like this, on a Sunday night, my mum and dad would have friends round and it would be card game night. And we'd play for half pennies because they were a thing back then. And one of the games that we used to play was called Queenie. And I think other people know it. Is it Find the Lady or something like that? Other people might know it as Find the Lady. Anyway, it's a game that I used to play when I was a lot younger with the family, and I used to love it. And I think I used to love it because I used to love games. And the fact that we were playing a game meant that I enjoyed it because we were playing a game. However, having looked at it again and played it again recently, this is a game now which I don't ever want to play again. And that is because there are 0 choices in this game. It is simply a way of passing the time. You get dealt your cards at the start, and somebody plays a 2 of hearts. And if you've got the 3 of hearts, you say 3 of hearts and you put it down. And then whoever's got the 4 of hearts says 4 of hearts and puts it down. Literally, you're making no choices whatsoever in the game. But as a kid, I used to absolutely love it. And I think there are probably more card games out there. And I'm curious, if you know, if you're watching this live, let me know, or if you're watching this back afterwards, how many of these old style traditional card games are not actually games? In other words, ones in which you make no choices, but they are just playing cards in a sequence if you've got them, kind of thing. Because that's the one that springs to mind for me. There might be many, money mill. Right, next question from Stuart. Stuart loosely understands the BGG weight score given to games in that a number means it's heavy and a low number means it's light, but he doesn't understand what the criteria for determining weight is. So for those of you who don't know, every game on Board Game Geek has a weight rating which goes up to 5. And generally speaking, anything that is sort of like 3.5 or higher is regarded as heavy, and anything that's 4 or higher is regarded as really heavy. Now, I personally think that the weight scale on BGG is fairly accurate once the game has been established. If you look at a game on BGG that's only just been announced, you can forget the weight rating because that's based on like 3 people's votes. But after a game has been out for 6 months or a year, the weight rating I find on BGG fairly accurate. Right? We're not talking about the rating or the ranking of the game itself. We're talking about the weight rating. But Stuart doesn't understand the criteria for determining weight. Nobody does, Stuart. Everybody has their own criteria. I have my own criteria for determining weight, which is generally loosely based on the size of the rulebook and how long it takes to teach the game. If it's got a 4-page rulebook that I can teach in 5 minutes, then it's got a low weight rating. If it's got a 40-page rulebook that takes you over an hour to teach the game and has got, lots of complexity. But going on from this is a bit of a longer discussion. There is another factor, which is depth. And if we look at chess, for example, or if we look at checkers, the rules of those games are relatively simple. However, the depth and the choices that you make in the game are there's a lot more going on. And the weight, some people class the weight, you can have a relatively simple game that's got really deep choices, and that would increase the weight of the game. Anyway, isn't weight somewhat subjective? Yes, it is. And Stuart's saying that as a gamer with limited experience, he may consider a game heavy compared to someone of your experience. Exactly right. And this is one, I think, and of course I think this because I'm the one saying it, but I think I have a fairly good objective view of the weight of a game. I think so. If a game is heavy, I can call it heavy. If a game is light, I can call it light. There are certain people, and there are some people in the hobby and so some people in the industry that seem to mark down a game in terms of heaviness because it's not heavy for them. And you're absolutely right, Stuart. If the kind of games that you play on a regular basis are Vital Lacerda's games, if you are a big Vital Lacerda fan and your game group, and that is the games that they play, and then you get a game out and you play Great Western Trail, you're going to think that Great Western Trail is a lighter game than a Vital Lacerda game. And it is. Absolutely. Just. But to go out and start telling people that Great Western Trail is a light game, or is even a medium game, I don't think Great Western Trail is a medium game. It is a medium to heavy game or a heavy game. It is somewhere in that category. And I do think it's a little bit irresponsible when people classify things incorrectly, because there are people out there on the internet listening to your opinion and they go, oh, Great Western Trail, a light game. Okay, I'll be all right with that. It's like, no. As a follow-on question, Stuart is asking that we have the Grogan scale of complexity for solo AIs. Yes. Do I have my Grogan scale for board game weight, and does it differ from BGG? No, I don't, because I think the BGG weight rating is good. I just find that it's odd that it's out of 5 and not out of 10. But yeah. Right, next question from Andy. Andy Pelton is asking, are there, specifically in the UK, are there too many game-playing conventions? Multi-day game-playing conventions. Now, when he says game-playing conventions, he means ones where the focus is on game playing. So we're not talking about UK Games Expo or Dragon Meet, where it's an exhibition. There's traders who have booths and everything else. Oh, and there's a bit of space to play games. What we're talking about is ones, for example, like GridCon that me and Vicky run, where 99% of the focus of the convention is just rooms of people playing games. And Andy is asking, are there too many of them? Because there's been a lot. There's always been a lot, but there's more and more happening now in the UK. And Andy is saying, will the numbers drop on some of them, especially where there are several cons within a week, or are they spread geographically so this won't happen? First of all, are there too many? No, I personally don't think there are too many. Are you able to go to all of them? No. I think we are at the stage now. I mean, we've always been at the stage because I've got access to a list of all of the conventions in the UK that are running, and they're everywhere. Every couple of weeks there's a convention. The more you look, the more you find that there are these conventions happening everywhere. So there was already too many to go to, but if there weren't before, there are now. And as a person attending these conventions, you need to just make a decision about which ones you can attend. Back in the day, 20 years ago, when all we had was Manacon, MidCon and Baycon, you just went to all three. But as more and more conventions have come online, yeah, certainly I've had to cut down on the amount of ones that I attend. Unfortunately, I'm missing Manacon this year, but that would be one that I would normally attend. But yeah, there's no way that I can go to all of them every year. And I work in the industry. So next question is also from Stuart. Stuart is saying, as a community, we discuss cult of the new or cult of the old a fair bit. Would it be beneficial or desirable for the board game community and publishers in general, ignoring all commercials and livelihood aspects, if there was a 1-year hiatus on games publishing? That way, everyone gets a chance to play what they already have and explore it before the new hotness comes out. It's never going to happen. And Games Law have followed on from this and said, would 1 year even be enough to digest the games that have been released in the last 5 years? Yeah, absolutely right. So yeah, Stuart, it would be great if the entire industry just said, no new games for a year. And everybody just had a year to play what they've already got. But as Paul from Games Law says, 1 year wouldn't be enough. I mean, it would be enough for me to go through my shelf of opportunity. It definitely would. And I'd be able to not only go through my shelf of opportunity, I'd be able to do all of those things that I haven't had time to do. I would be able to play the Maracaibo second campaign. I would be able to play the Pathfinder adventure card game Crimson Scales campaign. I'd be able to play ISS Vanguard. I'd be able to play Oathsworn. I'd be able to play Frosthaven. So yeah, a year off with no new games coming out would suit me absolutely fine. It's never going to happen. Now, what I would say, though, is if you are in the same boat as I've been a number of times, in the fact that you're constantly feeling this, it's a negative mental state because you have all of these games that you've bought and you've got them on your shelf and you want to play them and you don't have time to play them because, and a new game comes out. Oh, a new game comes out. Oh, there's another new game comes out. Sorry for that beep. That's my reminders going off. Then the only thing I can suggest is that you put yourself on a self-imposed hiatus and you say, that's it. I'm not buying any more games for maybe not even a year, maybe just 3 months or 6 months or something like that, and say, look, I've got all of these games that I backed on Kickstarter. I haven't played any of them yet. That's it. I'm going to go cold turkey on it, and I'm just going to play what I've got. Yes, you will miss out. You will miss out on certain things that are coming out on Kickstarter. But ultimately, if you've got more games that you own than you have time to play them, then maybe that's something you need to do. Yeah, let me know. Right, next question is from Elaine. Do I get a professional manicure or have a particular hand care practice before I do a game demo or playthrough? No, absolutely not. But if you think I do, then excellent. I do have an emery board with me pretty much at all times. The reason for that is due to my nerves and my anxiety, I am a terrible nail biter. And if my nails are not, if there's any kind of roughness on them whatsoever, and I do this more when I'm in company, because that's when the anxiety quite often kicks in, I'll be biting and I'll be chewing out, and then suddenly I've got no nail left. So I tend to have an emery board with me at most times, because then if there's ever a rough part, I will quickly get rid of it with an emery board. But no, I don't have any professional manicure or anything like that. Next question from Oddity. How does Hegemony, see I've pronounced it correctly today, compare to my favourite games from the last few years? For example, Imperial Steam and Bitoku. So for those people who don't know, Hegemony, or Hegemony, if you want the US pronunciation, is currently my favourite game of 2023. We are only in April, but right now, if you were to ask me what is my favourite game that I've played that came out this year, it is Hegemony. Now, not many games have come out this year, but it is fantastic and it is something special. And Oddity knows this and he's asking me, where does it compare to previous games? For example, Imperial Steam and Bitoku. Well, I mean, it's different. Hegemony is a very different game from the other two. Imperial Steam and Bitoku are just pure Euro games, and I enjoy playing them. Hegemony is something, if you want me to compare it, it is heavier, it is longer, but it is possibly a more enjoyable experience to play because of the way that the players interact with each other. The other games are more about just the typical Euro game of try and do stuff to get points, which is a great puzzle. Hegemony is more of an experience in playing the game. You're still trying to do the best thing you can to get your points, but it's the way that the players interact with each other that makes it special. Next question from Mick. Have I played many roll and write games, and what are my opinions on that style of game? So yes, I've played quite a few roll and writes. I'm trying to think. I've played lots. I've played Railroad Inc. I've played Super Skill Pinball. I've played Welcome To, which is a flip and write, but in the same genre. I've played Ganchon Clever. What else have I played? Trails of Tucana. There's probably other ones that I've played as well. If anybody knows in the chat of other roll and write games that I've played, let me know. But yeah, I like them. I really like roll and write games, but I like the ones that are relatively simple and playable in about half an hour. I have played a couple of more complex roll and write games, which I didn't quite enjoy. Welcome to Dino World, I didn't really enjoy that. Roman Roll, didn't really enjoy that. So whilst I enjoy the roll and write mechanism, I didn't enjoy it on those two games because I found it a bit fiddly. One thing I've not played is Hadrian's Wall. I've heard Hadrian's Wall is very, very good. I think that's a roll and write game. Pretty sure it is. Let me know if it is. But yeah, I've not played that one yet either. So yeah, no, I do like roll and write games. Mickey's also asking, he says, I've mentioned a few times that I used to play Magic the Gathering competitively. And he said he would love to hear a bit more about this, especially since I don't enjoy deck construction. What was it about Magic that I liked? How did I prepare for tournaments? Did I ever tweet? I could talk for hours about my experiences with Magic the Gathering. And, you know, looking back, and my opinion of the game now is that I don't ever want to play it again because I believe that there are certain mechanisms in the game that are completely flawed and have been replaced by much, much better games. So I don't ever want to play it again. But back in the late 90s, that's what we had. So, you know, I enjoyed it because I enjoyed the game at the time, but I don't enjoy the game now because we have much, much better games that don't have the issues that Magic has. But you're absolutely right. Deck construction, I can't construct my own deck. So how did I play competitively? I got decks from other people, friends or off the internet, and we tweaked them and we practiced them. And preparing for tournaments was all about practicing. It was all about practicing the deck, learning the deck, practicing playing the deck against other decks that were in the meta at the time. What do you do if you come across this? Sideboarding strategies and things like that. And very occasionally we would tweak the deck and we'd take a couple of cards out and switch them. Yeah, I've got lots of stories to tell you about my years playing Magic the Gathering competitively. This is pre getting seriously into board games. Still dabbled with the board games, but nowhere near as much now. Since then, have I ever played the Commander variant, and have I played it recently? So no, I haven't played the Commander variant. If that is the variant where everybody turns up with a 100 card deck of unique cards, I can't understand how that is popular. I mean, it is. A lot of people play it and a lot of people love it and say that is the best way to play Magic the Gathering. One of the issues that I had with Magic the Gathering is that you built a 60 card deck and the game was over when you were like 15 cards in. So you didn't see 3/4 of your deck, and the luck of the draw as to whether you get the right cards or not was quite high. I much prefer these modern card games with small decks, 30 or 40 cards, and ones where you're cycling through your deck quicker. I mean, it means deck construction is more important, when you're actually cycling through your deck. But the commander variant is you've got to build a deck of 100 cards that are all different. Well, I can't understand how. I just don't. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Anyway, moving on. Morton said, I know you get more requests than I can handle, but what are the chances that we'll see Ginkopolis featured on your channel? Now, Ginkopolis is a game that has been on my shelf of opportunity for a long time. Probably about 2 or 3 years. And I've been wanting to cover it because everybody's told me it was a great game. In fact, everybody's been telling me it's a great game before the new edition came out. And a couple of years ago, the new edition came out, and I had a working relationship with Pearl Games. Pearl Games are sadly no longer with us. But I asked them for a copy of it, and they kindly sent me a copy of it. But I have been meaning to play it on the channel for quite a while now. And I can tell you, Morton, just for you, well, not just for you, for me as well, it will be covered on the channel Friday, the 21st of this month. So not this Friday, because I'm away at Bacon, but the Friday after, we're going to be covering the game. Peter's coming round, Rob S is coming round, and in the afternoon, we're going to be doing one of those videos where we get the game out and we learn the game from the rulebook, because none of us know how to play, and we'll then play it and we'll give you our thoughts on it. So that is happening a week on Friday on the channel. It will be a live video where we are going to be learning the game from the rulebook and then playing it from the rulebook. The only thing I know about the game is that you stack the tiles in a 3D fashion. So I'm going to have to set up the other camera to show the side view, and I need to make sure I've got that set up first. So there we go. And apparently it's got a solo mode that is very simple to handle and tough to beat. Excellent. Right. Next question from Neil. Did we enjoy, or did I enjoy, but I'm going to include you in this, did we enjoy Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective right from the first play? You're shaking your head. And were we any good at it? So I can tell you my first experience, and this is a settle down stories with Paul time. So back in 1983, I was on holiday with my parents, and we went into a game shop because I was a kid and I loved playing games. So this was around the time that I just started playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I just got the first Fighting Fantasy book, but I wasn't playing board games at all, apart from like the kids' games. And in fact, I think this is pre-Talisman. But we were on holiday. I don't even know where, but we went on holiday with our caravan, and we found a game shop. And we walked into this game shop, and I spotted on the shelf a blue box called Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. Now, I've always been a huge Sherlock Holmes fan. Since I was a kid, loved the Basil Rathbone things, read all of the short stories and everything else. So huge Sherlock Holmes fan. So this is a Sherlock Holmes game in a shop, so we bought it. Now, I didn't realise at the time that Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective won the Spiel des Jahres. I didn't even know what the Spiel des Jahres was until 20 years later. And we took it back to the caravan that night, and we learnt how to play it, and we played it. And it was hilarious because the first case in the first box set is the case of the murdered munitions magnate. It's really hard, and it takes about 3 hours. So none of us had the faintest idea what was going on. I was 13 years old, so I wasn't very clever. My mum and dad are not that great with that kind of thing. And I think we scored minus 165 or something ridiculous. So to answer the question of were we any good at it? Absolutely no. But did I enjoy it right from the first play? Absolutely yes, because it's a detective style story. I don't think I appreciated it as much as it deserved, because yeah, I was too young to appreciate it. So can you remember your first game of it? But Vicky's not going to say anything, so you'll have to tell me later. Right. Neil's saying he's played 3 cases now, the latter 2 with the family. They do enjoy them, but a lot of the time it feels that they end up exhausting every possible lead that they can think of rather than actually deducing anything. It seems like you need to think in a specific way to solve them, and you haven't learnt yet how to get into the minders of the designers. Would you say that's fair, and do we have any tips? Yeah, that is very, very common, and we still find ourselves doing that now. You will spend a lot of time just going from one place to the other, getting information. There are certain things that you can deduce if you're able to, but you have to, I should say, you have to get into the mind of the designers and think, why have they told us this bit of information? Why have they been very specific about the fact that the Dark Shadow was 6 feet tall and wearing a hat? Why is that important? And it might not be. It might be a red herring. There are even some of the, I mean, we've played all of them now. And even near the end, we were finding that 2/3 of the way through the game, and we've been to like 15 different places, we have no idea what's going on. And we go, well, we can't stop now because we actually don't understand at all what's going on. But eventually, we are able to work it out. Now, Neil also says that he's aware comparing your score to Sherlock is folly. Yeah, absolutely right. Just try and score the best you can. Don't bother about trying to beat Sherlock. My biggest bit of advice in the game is, and it's the biggest criticism of the game, because the game kind of tells you that the whole objective is to beat Sherlock, and therefore you should do it in as fewer places as possible. And I think that gives you a really bad experience of the game. If you go to like 5 or 6 places and then try and work it out, you'll only take about an hour and a half, and you'll probably get it all wrong. We go to about 15 or 20 places. And we don't care about the score. We still do the score, but we don't care about it. For us, we go to as many places as we want to until we think we've worked out what's going on. So yeah, should you be making more deductions, meaning you don't need to go everywhere? It's up to you. Absolutely enjoy the game. I know some people that go to 30 different locations. As long as you go to enough that you feel that you're able to answer the questions, then that's fine. And certainly, my recommendation is do the scoring, keep track of the scoring, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Have we ever come close to Sherlock Holmes? Yes, we have. In some of the green box cases, especially with the bonus questions, we found that we were scoring... I mean, there was one where we actually scored over 100, I think. Do you remember? Yeah. So I think we did actually score over 100, but I can't remember how, because Holmes normally does it in like 5 or 6. We normally do it in 15, so we lose loads of points that way. But then the bonus questions, yeah, I think we've come close. But to be honest, as I say, the points are mostly irrelevant to us. If we get all of the questions right or most of the questions right, then we've enjoyed it, and that's the whole point of it. Right, next question from Roger. Do I go to conventions where game playing figures largely as opposed to conventions dominated by publishers? Yes, I mentioned earlier on. If so, do you aim to play games that you haven't played before, or do you prefer to look for the opportunity to play games that you already enjoy and haven't played enough? So Roger, tomorrow I'm going away to a convention called BGG, and that is a game playing convention. There are no exhibitors, there's no demos, there's nothing like that apart from the demos that I'm running. And yeah, so the question is, do I aim to play games that I haven't played before, or do I prefer to look for the opportunity to play games that I already know? It's the second one. I go to these conventions and I view them as, so I'm at BGG Thursday, Friday and Saturday. So that's 12 hours a day for the next 3 days that I get time to play games where I'm not streaming them, I'm not being paid or anything like that. So this is my opportunity to play catch-up. And I can tell you now, if you give us a minute, I will open my spreadsheet, because I actually plan everything in advance. And the reason I plan everything in advance is because I've realized that the more organized I am, the less anxiety I have. For me, being at a convention and finding a few people to play and then deciding what game to play, I'm a little uncomfortable with that, and I'm sure it'll be fine. And I have done it before and it's worked out, but usually for the lighter games. So for me, I like to pretty much plan most of what I'm doing in advance so that I know, and it just makes me more comfortable. So I can tell you now, I can look up my games organizer, and I can tell you exactly what I'm doing. So in the mornings, I'm going to be demoing Earth. So that is, I'm going to be running some demos of Earth from Inside Up each morning. I'm going to be running 2 games of that. Thursday afternoon, I'm playing the War of the Three Sanchos, which is a new game coming from Surprise Stare Games later this year. Alan Paul is going to be at Bacon. I'm going to be covering the game on the channel, I said bacon's not going to be work. This is actually work. I'm going to be covering the game on the channel later this year, so Alan is going to use this opportunity to teach me how to play it. In the afternoon, I'm going to be playing Rebuilding Seattle, and the reason I'm playing that game is some of my patron supporters are going to be at Bacon, and I like to give something back to my patron supporters. So I said to them, is there a game that you've seen that I've covered on the channel that you would like to play? And they said, yeah, Rebuilding Seattle. So I'm doing a game of that. And then Thursday evening, I'm going to be playing Dune Imperium with all of the expansions, which I haven't done yet. And I absolutely love Dune Imperium. So I'm using that as an opportunity to play it. Friday, 2 games of Earth in the morning. And then I'm playing Hegemony in the afternoon. Again, it's a game which I have to plan. The chance of you being able to find 3 other people that want to play Hegemony and have all got the next 5 hours free. I mean, yeah, you might be able to, but for me, I'm planning it. So I'm going to be doing that. And then Friday evening, and I can't wait for this, but Chris, one of my patron supporters, said, I'm coming to Bacon and I'm looking to play Sidereal Confluence. Anybody want to play? I've been wanting to play Sidereal Confluence again for over a year. So again, this is my opportunity to go, yes, please, I'm going to play that. Saturday, I'm going to be playing 2 games of Earth. Then in the afternoon, me, Rick, Paul and Victoria, we're going to be playing Guards of Atlantis 2, which is a game that I've been wanting to play for months. Haven't played it yet, so I guess it is something new, but I've been wanting to play it for ages, and this is the time to play it. Then on Saturday evening, I'm going to be playing Teotihuacan using the new Deluxe Edition, because I need to remember how to play, because on Sunday I'm going to be doing a video of it. So it's a little bit of a mix, is Bacon. But yeah, generally speaking, it will be either a game which I've had and haven't had the opportunity to play, or it'll be an existing game that I already know and I want to play more of. Do I prefer traditional hot cross buns or ones with icing for the cross? And I will now put the picture on screen that I had up earlier. So these are hot cross buns that Vicky made recently, but these are without the glaze. So since taking the photo, Vicky then put the glaze on them. I can't remember what was in the glaze, but it wasn't icing, was it? It was just a glaze. I mean, I love icing. So even if icing is not technically sort of, you know, the right way of doing it, I do love icing. So I would probably say I would prefer icing just because I like icing. Right, next question from Villain by Night. If me and my partner, that's you, could travel anywhere in the world for leisure and stay for a month, where would you go and why? I've written down my answer. So for me, it would be New Zealand. And Vicky's copying me and saying New Zealand as well. Always wanted to go to New Zealand. And I think if you're going to go to New Zealand, you're going to have to go for at least 2 or 3 weeks. So yeah, it would be New Zealand. And why? Because I've always wanted to go. And they filmed Lord of the Rings there as well. I think I probably always wanted to go before they filmed Lord of the Rings there. But the fact that there are places for Middle Earth there as well, I definitely want to go and see all of those. Is there a local dish at this location that you would be especially excited to try? I have no idea what New Zealand food is at all. For this trip, would we instinctively look to bring a board game or would we be inclined to go game free? If we opted to bring a game, what would it be? I would have to take a board game with me because 4 weeks away without a board game, I would go crazy. But the likelihood is that we would take some puzzle escape room type games. We've got a few of these puzzle games that are come in book form, or choose your own adventure books or things like that, things that we could do together that don't take up much space. So it wouldn't be a board game as such, it would be a puzzle game that we would do together. Next question from Angus. Do I enjoy any comic themed games besides the ones that I've covered on the channel, Marvel Champions and Age of Heroes? I would say, I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think of any other comic-themed games that I've played. Now, I don't have Sentinels of the Multiverse, and I've not played that. I've played Legendary Marvel once and didn't like it, but that's because I don't like the Legendary system. If anybody knows of any comic-themed board games that I've played, let me know, because I can't remember. So, yeah, yes, in theory, I would enjoy them. but I can't think of any that I've played. I'll wait for the chat to remind me of any comic-themed games that I've played. Right, we've got about 3 questions left. Then we're going to do the details of the contest, and then we'll go to the live questions. So, from Jan. Jan primarily plays 2-player with his partner and sees a lot of games that use a dummy player of some sort to make the game work at 2 players, which makes him hesitant to get it. For example, Come Together, he really likes the theme and it seems like a fun game, but for 2 players it has a bot. What are my thoughts on dummy players or bots to make games work at 2-player? My thoughts are that I don't like running bots. If I've got a 2-player game, I just want to play 2 players. I don't want the added complexity of using a bot. However, the reason that there is a bot in these games is they need them. Dune Imperium is one. Dune Imperium is an absolutely fantastic game, but if you play Dune Imperium as 2-player, you need a 3rd player to do the bot. And that is because there's a conflict element to the game where players are bidding with putting cubes into a fight and everything else. And it just doesn't work at 2-player. You need a 3rd player, at least a dummy player, to do that. So depending on the game mechanisms, you absolutely need a 3rd player. In fact, if those games didn't include a bot for a 3rd player, they just wouldn't work. And I think there is one game that's come out, I can't remember what it was, but it came out and the 2-player version just wasn't very good and it needed a bot to simulate a 3rd player. So yeah, it's just how it is for a certain game. What I would do is I would get hold of the rulebook, I would have a look at the bot, because if the bot is easy to run, then I would still go for it. But if it looks like the bot is complicated, then you might not want to do. And certainly the one for Dune Imperium, I think, was quite easy. You just flipped a card over and you put something on a space and added some cubes, and that was it. So for me, that's fine. Alex is asking, has there been a game lately which I haven't played for a while, I haven't really looked forward to playing it, and then realised how good it is? So initially, I was thinking, I can't think of a game that I've played in the last year that I wasn't actually looking forward to playing. Because if I'm not looking forward to playing a game, then I'm probably not going to actually play it. But there are a few games that I haven't played in a while. So I'm not answering your question here yet. I've got an answer to your question, but I'll come to that later. There are a few games recently that I've been playing, which I haven't played in a long time, which I realised how good they are. I mean, I knew they were good, but it's been nice to go back to them. So I've been playing Anachrony on Board Game Arena, Russian Railroads on Board Game Arena. We played Feast for Odin on the channel the other week, Underwater Cities on Yucata. I think they're all great games, and I've been playing them recently on various online websites, and they are great. Also, Taj Mahal, we covered that on the channel in the latest Cult of the Old video series. Couple of months, was it last month or a couple of months ago? We played Taj Mahal. It's on the channel if you're interested. There was a playthrough of it, and it was fantastic. So it wasn't that I wasn't looking forward to it. I was very much looking forward to it because I thought it was great. And it was great. It was really, really good. Now, there is one which I wasn't looking forward to, and that was Agricola. And the reason why I wasn't looking forward to it is I picked up a copy of the 15th anniversary edition at Essen last year. Lookout Games were kind enough to give me a review copy of it. And because they've given me a review copy of it, I feel obligated to cover it on the channel. Otherwise, they're just giving me a game and they're not getting anything back for it. So I covered it on the channel. It wasn't a sponsored video, but I got Agricola when it came out. I have a history with that game. It was groundbreaking in what it did for the board game hobby. And I played it dozens of times when it came out and loved it. But as time has gone on, Caverna came out, which for me, I think Caverna is a much better game. Feast for Odin is a much better game. And so many other games for Uwe Rosenberg came out, which I think were better than Agricola. Therefore, why would I ever go back and play Agricola? Anyway, then I found out that the 15th anniversary edition was coming out, and I thought, okay, I used to love this game. My perception of it is that the game has been replaced by later ones, but it would be good to go back to it and just play it again for nostalgia reasons. So that's why I picked up a copy of the game. However, it then became playable on Board Game Arena. So what I did is I started playing it on Board Game Arena. This is going back to October, November, December of last year. And I started playing a lot of Caverna and Agricola on Board Game Arena. And I played about 3 games of each and realised I definitely like Caverna a lot more than Agricola. So then it came to the point where we were actually going to be covering Agricola on the channel, and I can answer your question. I was not looking forward to it because I was thinking, why am I playing this game when I could be playing Caverna? However, the video went really well. I really enjoyed the game and it went better than expected. And I'm really happy about that because it's turned Agricola into here's a game which I'm never going to play again. Oh, okay, we'll give it another go. Oh no, I'm a bit disappointed by it. Into, give it another go. Actually, this was good. I will definitely play this again. So yeah, that is the one. Right, that is the end of all of the questions that I've been asked in advance. So again, if you're not a member of the guild on Board Game Geek, please head on over to Board Game Geek. Vicky will put a link in the chat now. All you need to do is click join, click subscribe, and feel free to start any discussions. If you've got any questions that you want to ask either me or the community in general, you can ask them on the guild and get various answers from people. Right. Let's go to the question. So every month, as part of these live Q&As, I give away £50 worth of games vouchers from Games Law. £25 of those vouchers comes from Games Law itself. So thank you very much to Games Law for sponsoring the show by giving me £25 of vouchers to give away. And the other £25 comes from me. The reason I'm able to do this is thanks to the support of the Patreon campaign, which funds the channel and pays for these things and pays for my time and all of that lot. So a big thank you to all of my Patreon supporters for funding the channel. And if you're not a Patreon supporter and you are watching this and you want to support the channel, you can do so at patreon.com/gaming rules. So every month I do a contest, and the winner of last month's contest is somebody who has actually been on the channel a few times, a fellow Paul. Paul Snuggs, congratulations. Paul entered the contest last time. We had 254 tickets in the hat. Number 91 got drawn out this morning, and that was Paul Snuggs. So congratulations, Paul. I've sent you an email. So yeah, let me know what you spend your £50 on. This month's contest is available right now. All you need to do to enter the contest is there is a link in the description of this video, or you can click on the link in the chat and it will take you to a Google form. And all you need to do to fill in the Google form is put in your details. Let me know if you're a Patreon supporter or not. And you need to put the secret password for this month, which is BACON, which is the convention that I'm going to tomorrow. BAYCON. If you want to put bacon, BACON, you can. It's absolutely fine. But yeah, that is the name of the convention that I will be going to tomorrow. It's in its 35th year. BACON has been running for 35 years. Yeah, I've been going to it for about the last 12, I think. But yeah, I'll be going to that tomorrow. So yeah, to enter the contest, click on the link. Secret word is BACON. Put in your details. If you are a Patreon supporter, you get double entries into the contest. So good luck. And you've got until now to when's the next Q&A? The next Q&A will be May the 10th. It's early, but yeah. So you've got until May the 9th to enter the contest. Right, so moving on to the questions that I've been asked since we've been live. I haven't seen these questions before, so hopefully we'll be okay. And then we'll go through these. We do still have time for some more questions, so keep them coming if you've got some more time. If you've got some more questions. Right, next question from Keneal. As a solo experience, would I recommend Hoplomachus Victorum or Too Many Bones? Too Many Bones seems to have a higher learning curve and too much content to keep up with, but you would love to dip your toes into a chip theory game. I would suggest Hoplomachus Victorum for 2 reasons. First one is you've touched on it. The Too Many Bones learning curve is higher. Too Many Bones is probably more varied because every character in Too Many Bones plays very differently. But Hoplomachus Victorum is designed as a solo experience game. Now, you can play Too Many Bones solo, and I have played it solo, and it's been great. But if given the choice, I would play Hoplomachus Victorum as a solo experience, and I would play Too Many Bones as a multiplayer experience. Now, there are people watching this video right now who have played Too Many Bones a lot solo and think, what's Paul on about? I'm not saying that Too Many Bones is not a good solo game. I'm just saying, given the choice, I would play Hoplomachus Victorum. Certainly the rulebook and the rule set for Hoplomachus Victorum are a lot better than Too Many Bones, and the learning curve should be less painful for you. Next question from Andrew. Do I have advice on how to address a friend's analysis paralysis, which is dragging out playtime and impacting on the fun? Ark Nova was 4 hours last night at 3 players. Yes, I have some advice for you. And it is a good friend of mine, Adam. I don't know if Adam's in the chat today. I don't think he is. A good friend of mine, Adam, who came up with this idea. And it is called the AP fork. And what you do is you get a fork from your kitchen and you put it on the table, and every time they are playing slow, you jab them with the fork. I think studies have found that if you just have the fork on the table and they see the fork, that will spur them into playing faster. Seriously though, I have experienced this a lot myself. There are some people who come around here regularly and play games with me who are known to suffer from slow play. One of them, Robert, great guy, good friend of mine, plays games a lot with me. He knows he suffers a lot from analysis paralysis, and any games with Robert are generally slower. That doesn't bother me as such, but it does bother a number of other people. Now, if you're playing Ark Nova in 4 hours with 3 players, I can absolutely understand. There's 2 problems with that. First of all, you might be at a games club and you might sit down at 8 o'clock and think, we're playing Ark Nova, it's 3 players, we'll be done in 2.5 hours. The club closes at 11, so we'll have time to finish. Great. And then you start the game and one player is playing so slow, you don't finish the game and you have to pack it up. That's terrible experience. The other one is that maybe you're just not expecting a 4-hour game. Maybe you need to get to bed or something like that. But ultimately, especially in this modern day where time is so precious and we all want to get more bang for the buck with our time, you're playing a 3-player game of Ark Nova in 4 hours and I'm on the next table and I've played a 3-player game of it in 2.5 hours. I then go off and have an hour and a half more fun, and you're sat there waiting for the other player to finish. So I absolutely understand your pain with people who play slow, but do I have any advice on how to address it? It's a difficult situation because ultimately that player who is playing slow is probably not doing it deliberately. They are not sitting there thinking, oh, I'm going to take longer over this because it's going to annoy the other people. They're not doing that. They are playing slow because that's how slow they play. And unfortunately, not everybody is able to make those decisions and play at the same speed. The problem is when it's impacting on other players. So what you could do is you could speak to them either privately afterwards, and you could say, look, Dave, we need to have a chat. You tend to take longer in these games than other people, and it's gotten to the point where it's seriously affecting other players' enjoyment of the game because they're sat there waiting for you. You can say that and you can be as polite about it as you want. However, is there anything that Dave can do about it? There probably isn't. Dave is just that slow and that's how he plays games. And by speaking to him about it, you might have put him off and he might then leave and he might never come back to the club, which might be happy for the other players. Yeah, I'm not sure. But I mentioned earlier on the guild on Board Game Geek. So what I would do is, Andrew, is if you are not already a member of the guild, go and join the guild and then post that as a question because the guild is there for everybody. Post that question onto the guild and what you'll do is you'll get advice from lots of other people. So yeah, so do that and see what advice, and I will see that thread and I will see the advice that you get from other people. Right, next question from Peter. For people who are not used to playing games with a high complexity, what is your advice on the best way to learn a complex game? Oh, I could talk about this for hours. I would say if we list all of the things that I'm good at and all of the things that I'm bad at, making complex games approachable is near the top of the things that I'm good at. I would think that that is one of my strong points. So, and I've got loads and loads of advice. Probably more than I can talk about here in a couple of minutes, but I'll give you a few bits. The first one is everybody needs to write off their first game as a learning game, right? If you all go into a complex game and think, right, this is a complex game, we all really, really need to think about this, we need to take this really slowly and analyze every single... No, you will be there for 3 times the time that's printed on the box. You won't even be there for 4 hours with Ark Nova. You'll be there for 8 hours with Ark Nova. So if your group is not used to complex games and you want to play a complex game, then the biggest bit of advice is come to a convention with me and I will teach you, or somebody who knows the game and is good at teaching it. The best way is to get somebody to show you how to play the game. Right, if that's not possible and you're all there learning yourself, the best bit of advice I can give is everybody learn the game together at the same time and write off your first game as a learning game. Your first game should be, let's pull this lever, let's push that button, let's put this here, let's do that. We don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to learn. So don't analyze every decision to the nth degree. Make mistakes, play mistakes, play badly. Just, I mean, not deliberately, but literally do things in the game, because one of the things with complex games is there is an impact to your decisions, but you don't realize what the impact of those decisions are until way down the line. And I'm saying don't worry about it. Put your worker on that space, take one of those tokens. Is that good? I don't know. We'll find out. And then at the end of the game, you will have played the game in a suitable length of time and you will all be in a much better position, and then you can play the game again. Or just play 1 round of the game or 2 rounds of the game, something like that, just to get a feel for it. But whatever you do, please don't do what I've seen done with other groups, in that they literally take... There was one group that I know that took 8 hours for their first game of Lisboa, because they all sat there for 2.5 hours trying to analyze everything before anybody had taken a move, discussing what this rule meant and what that could mean. No, don't do that. Just start playing it and learn as you go. Next question from Simon. Heat has space in the box for more cards and players. Is there any news and rumours from Days of Wonder of an expansion? Not officially, but I would put money on the fact that there's going to be an expansion this year with an extra 2 players and 2 extra tracks. I would put money on that. Next question from Monica. What was my first thoughts when starting the channel, and did I look out for new streamers and game influence? What was my first thoughts when starting the channel? And do I look out for new streamers and game influencers? So my first thoughts on starting the channel, I mean, when I started the channel, I still had a job. I never intended, I don't think I intended it. No, I didn't. Yeah, when I first started the channel, I still had a full-time job, and I just wanted to do this as a fun thing to do, because I love teaching people how to play games. So I came up with the idea that I would create videos to teach people how to play games. That was my idea that I had. It then turns out other people had already had that idea that I didn't know about. But I actually came up with that idea myself, and that's how I started the channel. So yeah, my first thoughts when I started the channel was I just wanted to make videos on teaching people how to play games. Of course, in the last 8-9 years, the channel has changed a lot. I used to do review videos. I don't do review videos anymore. I used to do a podcast. I don't do a podcast anymore. When we got the internet upgraded here, which was 3.5 years ago now, I think. I remember it was July. I think it was pre-COVID, yeah. So I think probably 3.5 years ago, we got the internet upgraded in the town where I live, which means I was able to live stream. And that has completely transformed the channel, because I now do 47,000 live streams every week. So yeah, my thoughts on starting the channel were very different from where they are now. Do I look out for new streamers and game influence? I don't look out for them. I find out about them all the time, because there's hundreds of them out there. And I'm always happy to contact them, speak to them, share ideas and things like that. Next question from Tazzy. Would it be possible to get a meet and greet at Essen Fair for the German viewer base this year? Absolutely no problem. Yeah, no problem whatsoever. Drop me an email or ping me on Facebook Messenger or whatever through the guild. However you want to message me. Absolutely fine with a meet and greet. In fact, last year, I went to the meet and greet event that was put on by, I can't remember who organised it, but anyway, there was a meet and greet event on the Saturday at Essen, and I was there. So if they're doing the same thing this year, I'll be there. That is the best place to do it. But other than that, yeah, just drop me a message. I'm more than happy to meet up. Next question from Simon. When I record a live game session, do I play with friends or Patreons? Or both? There's a lot of Patreon supporters that I've got that have become friends over the years. And there's a lot of friends that I've got that have become Patreon supporters because they want to support me and support the channel. So, yeah, I mean, when I do a live game session, what happens is that I normally invite my local player base. Some of them are Patreon supporters, some of them are not Patreon supporters. The ones that are not Patreon supporters don't get treated any differently. They might get one Jaffa Cake instead of two. But other than that, yeah, it's a mix. One thing that I don't generally do is that I don't invite Patreon supporters to come here and play games. I generally invite people who I already know. Yeah, because it would be a little weird, I think, to invite Patreon supporters who I've never met. Now, there's a big difference here. If you're a Patreon supporter of mine and I've never met you at a convention or anything like that, then it is unlikely that I would invite you round on a Friday night because I don't know who you are. But if you are a Patreon supporter who I have met and spoken to and gotten to know and things like that, then yeah, I'm happy for that. In fact, this Sunday, what's happening this Sunday is Bacon finishes at 12 noon on the Sunday. So Bacon is a convention that runs from noon on the Wednesday to noon on the Sunday. And what I'm doing is after the convention finishes, I've invited Patreon supporters that are going to Bacon to come round here afterwards, and we're having an afternoon game session. That's when I'm going to be live streaming Teotihuacan, but there will be other people downstairs playing some games. Right, next question from Monica. Do I have a particular guilty pleasure that doesn't involve Jaffa Cakes? Baklava. Well, if we're talking food related, or are we talking non-food related? Yeah, food related. I love baklava. However, Vicky's sisters, for my birthday and Christmas every year for the last 4 years, used to get me a big box of baklava. And I've had to say, please don't get me any more baklava, because whilst I love it, it's probably very, very unhealthy. And what will happen is that I will just eat it, and I'll eat it like 3 or 4 pieces a day. If they were able to get me maybe a small box of baklava that I would maybe have one a week as a treat, then that would be great. But yeah, absolutely love baklava. Other than that, guilty pleasures. I don't know whether I've got any guilty pleasures. Don't think so. A bit boring. But yeah, don't think I've got anything. Next question from Zod. If I had to personally redo the art for a game, regardless of how well you will do it, what game will it be and why? Roads and Boats. And I've already done it. So Roads and Boats is a fun little game. It's a great game. It's quite different and it's a bit odd, but the artwork is just awful. Absolutely awful. And what I've done is my version of Roads and Boats is I've actually redone all of the terrain tiles so that they actually look good and not terrible. And I've redone all of the component pieces. I've redone a lot of it. So yeah, Roads and Boats is one of the games that I would do. Yeah, but that's a good question. That's possibly a good question for the guild, actually. So yeah, Zod, if you are still watching, feel free to go over to the guild and post that question on the guild. That if there is a game that you would, a game that you enjoy, but you think the artwork could be better, yeah, what would it be? Next question from Simon. Have I produced a video to show how to box a game or review a folded space insert? So years ago, I have done a video on a folded space insert. I can't even remember which one it was. It might have even been Feast for Odin or something like that. Have I produced a video to show how to box a game? So first that question, no. I've never done a video on how to put a game in a box. But a folded space insert, yeah. I mean, I got the one for Frosthaven, and I didn't get, I lost time at the end of last year, and I didn't get a chance to do a video on it. And then lots of other people did videos on it, so I figured, okay, there was no point doing that. But no, I remember covering some folded space inserts on the channel a while ago. And in fact, Folded Space, the guy from Folded Space, Richard, really nice guy, he reached out to me a couple of months ago and said that he might be interested in sponsoring some more videos on the channel for Folded Space, which is great. You know, somebody paying me money to create content helps keep the channel going. And I'd be up for doing that, but I don't feel that that's my area of speciality, really. I kind of feel a little uncomfortable by doing it because it's like, I don't want to feel like a salesman. And if I'm doing a video to help sell a product, I don't know. I just feel a little uncomfortable with that. So I haven't gone back to him. But folded space inserts have really started to look really nice now that they do the full artwork on them. Yeah, they look really good. And I do have the one for Frosthaven, and it is really good. I'm looking over there because that's where it is. I have done the other inserts. Yes, I did E-Raptor. So I got some inserts from E-Raptor. They didn't pay me to do the inserts. They did send me some inserts for free in order that I would do videos for them, which I did. It is not something that I would be doing again for them because whilst and this is the thing, whilst I appreciate them sending me the inserts, which are nice, the inserts are nice, I'm not an insert person, okay? I am not somebody who goes out and buys inserts for my games. And that is because I don't want to spend the same amount on the insert as I did for the game itself. They look nice, and yes, it probably makes the game easier to set up, and I'm more than happy if I've got one, but I'm not going to go out of my way to buy them. So when I got sent the inserts from E-Raptor, whilst I didn't pay for them, they sent me them, they were worth X amount of money, and I'm appreciative of the fact that they sent them to me, I wouldn't have bought those inserts anyway myself. So I've not saved any money by getting those inserts, and making those videos for them probably took me about 6 hours of my time. So effectively, I did 6 hours of work that wasn't paid for, and what I have to show for it is that I do have some nice inserts for my games, but they're not inserts that I would have bought anyway. So that's why I kind of don't really want to be doing many more things like that on the channel. Yeah. Anyway. Right. Ben Filler has asked a question. Errata. So when he started the hobby, he remembers thinking, why do companies release games that are full of mistakes? And he still doesn't understand why it's an accepted part of our hobby. To me, it's laziness or lack of proofreading. What are my thoughts? Oh, Ben, I could talk for hours about this. In an ideal world where publishers had infinite resources to fully proofread and check their games and had an infinite amount of time and weren't moving to deadlines or anything like that, we'd have perfect games with no errata and no typos. However, that's not the reality. Now, some publishers are better at this than others. There are some publishers that have really good rulebook writers, really good editors, have really good team of people working on the games to make sure that you get the best game you can. They might still have some errata. Might. Then there are other publishers who constantly put out rulebooks with errors, constantly put out cards that don't make sense. That's just how it is. Now, unfortunately, we are living in a situation where we're living in a I don't know what I'm trying to say here. Some publishers are better than others, is what I'm trying to say. But even the best publishers, something slips through. Even the best rulebook writers do sometimes make the odd mistake because we're only human at the end of the day. So it isn't great. I mean, if you look at Chip Theory Games, Hopla Marcus Victorum, a couple of errors sneaked into that. One of them quite big. And when you look at it, you think, how did this error sneak in? And then you look at Frosthaven, and there were errors that sneaked into Frosthaven. The upsetting thing with Frosthaven is the printers printed the wrong files. And that's how the errata crept in for Frosthaven, is they were sent updated version of the files and said, these replace the old files, don't print them, print these, and the factory printed the old files. These things happen. Mistakes get made, and it is just it is part of it. What are my thoughts on it? My thoughts on it are that I just have to accept that this is part of the hobby and part of the industry. certain publishers can be trusted and certain publishers cannot be trusted. Personally, I tend to avoid games from the publishers that are constantly putting out rulebooks with mistakes and with errata. I have no interest in those because I want to focus my time on the publishers that are more deserving of it. Next question from Monica. Do I feel some designers are trying to do too much in their games sometimes? And do I have a few examples? Yes. Yes, I do. And I don't really want to talk publicly about that, but I'll happily share my thoughts with you in private, Monica, if you want to ping me later on. But this all came about. This is a good question because I've actually been thinking about this for the last couple of months, ever since we played Taj Mahal. So we played Taj Mahal, and I'm looking over there because that's where it is. We played Taj Mahal. It's an old game from Reiner Knizia. It's 23 years old. If you are interested, there is a playthrough on the channel. Just search on my channel for a couple of months ago, Taj Mahal. And we played it, and it's a fantastic game. But the biggest thing that jumped out to me is how simple it was. How there weren't that many rules. It is, we move this piece around the board. We bid for each of these 12 areas. Here's how the bidding rules works. Here's the special characters. And you get points for collecting these and that. Done. That's it. And most modern games that come out now are like, oh, well, there's this. But then there's this. Oh, and then there's this. And you can throw this in. Oh, and there's an area control bit over here. Oh, and by the way, there's also set collection. Oh, and there's also this. And there's also this. And I do feel that a lot of games that come out these days tend to have the kitchen sink thrown at them because either the designer or the publisher feels the need to make it something more and something different. And sometimes they go too far. And if you've got any examples, I think this is another good question for the guild, because then other people can answer the question and I don't have to answer it. So Monica, please head on over to the guild, post the question on there. And this is, which games have you played recently where you felt that there was simply too much to the game? There were too many things going on in the game and they should maybe stripped out some of those elements and it would still be a good game, but without all of the extra bits that weren't necessarily needed. Next question from Tazzy. What does make you angry on board gaming? Make me angry. Play themes or whatever else. So bad rule books, bad graphic design, lack of attention to, a lack of care when producing the game. That's what makes me angry and frustrated, because it is, as was mentioned earlier on, as Ben said, it's partly laziness, but it's partially, and I think what makes me angry is big name publishers that make games that make millions that come out with games that are terrible. That angry might be too far. So bad rulebooks make me angry, because there should be no bad rulebooks. Publishers should hire proper people to write rulebooks and not get their mate Alan to do it in the backyard. Rulebook writing is a skill. You don't get, if you want your wall plastered, you get a plasterer. So that's what makes me angry. What I don't like and makes me frustrated is the amount of big games coming out that cost hundreds of pounds that are just bad games, and the publisher sells those games because it's got so much bling and so many miniatures and the game isn't actually very good. That's what that, not really angry, but I don't like that. If I was to do a video on the top 10 things that I don't like about the board game industry, that would be number one. Next question from Monica. What's the lightest game you've ever played in your adult years and did you enjoy it? Well, if we're talking about lightest game in terms of rules, complexity and difficulty to teach, it would probably be Just One. Just One is such a simple game. And yes, I enjoyed it. I enjoy it a lot, and it'll probably be my most played game this year. So yeah, a game like Just One or So Clover. I mean, it's even simpler than Codenames. Yeah. So yeah, and it's fantastic. Next question from Matisse. What do I think of Dungeon Fighter 2nd Edition? Not played it. Is it worth having? I don't know. So yeah, I'm afraid I don't know anything about that. I'd have to look it up. I think I've heard of it. but I don't know. Yeah, I've not covered it on the channel. I don't have it, and I don't know anybody who has it. So yeah, can't help you with that one. Have I played The Pursuit of Happiness and did I like it? Oh, I've got a story about The Pursuit of Happiness that I could tell you. I haven't played it, but I am pretty sure that if I had played it, I would enjoy it. I love the concept of the game. I love the idea of the game, and everybody I know that has played it has said it's a really good game. The story, which I will tell another time, is that I actually designed a game which was almost identical in theme, but didn't actually design it. And then a year later, Pursuit of Happiness came out. And I had a discussion with David Chirkop, one of the designers of Pursuit of Happiness. I had this conversation with him and I told him this story, and he was astonished as to how similar the game that I was working on was to what Pursuit of Happiness was. And I have proof. This isn't just a dream that I had. I have proof because Vicky, I told her all about this game that I was designing. I also told Vlada Shavatel all about this game that I was designing over breakfast one day. And then Vlada went and sold my ideas to David. No, he didn't. So yeah, so I did it, and that's the story. And then this game came out, and I was like, wait a minute, that's almost identical to what I was working on. So yes, but I haven't played it, but I've heard it's good. What game in my collection would never leave my collection and why? Thank you, Louis, for your question. I've got probably 200 games at least in my collection that would never leave. Mage Knight is one of them. Through the Ages is another. Gloomhaven is another. I've got lots. I have lots of games that would never leave my collection. I think pretty much my top 50 games would never leave my collection. But if you're saying I am deserted on a desert island and I am only allowed to have one game, it would probably be Mage Knight. Next question from Sean. For Hegemony, how best to learn it? You're thinking of going with 2 factions, simple solo first, then 3 factions, solo changing classes, so you've played one each, then teach 3-player game. So the best way to learn it is to watch my video, which I know it's a long video, but I think that would be the best way to learn it. Assuming you've already watched my video, then you're absolutely right. The best way to learn it is 2-player. Stick to 2-player at the start, the working class and the capitalists, because you need to learn how both of those classes work. Then, once you've learned that, add in the 3rd player, which is the middle class, because the middle class works very similar to the working class and also very similar to the capitalist. So you should be okay with that once you've got the hang of the first 2. And then add in the state later on. But yeah, absolutely right. Start 2-player. Personally, I don't think you should try soloing it. Now, Sean, I'm going to go off at a bit of a tangent here because this is the last question. We do have time for a couple more questions. So if you have any remaining questions, ask them now, but that will be the last couple of questions. So, Sean, one of the things within the board gaming hobby is what's the word I'm looking for? The person who buys the game and the person who owns the game, there's a lot of assumption that is made that it is that person that needs to do everything possible to learn the game so that they know the game absolutely perfectly before their friends come round and teach them. And I want to see that gone, right? I want to see that stamped out because there's no reason for it. I think it is unfair to put all of that responsibility and time on the person who bought the game. So Sean, if you're asking me this question because you've got a friend who's going to come round and learn how to play, but before they come round and learn and play, you've got to watch the video, read the rules again, watch the video again, then do a solo game 2-handed. You don't need to. It is a shared experience for you and the other player. And I would strongly recommend not doing that, just getting them round, going over the basics, and then you play your first game together. It's an experience for both of you, and if they expect you to go through all of the effort to learn the game perfectly, that's not fair. That's not fair on you. So yeah, my best advice is do it with the other person who's going to be playing in it rather than doing it yourself. And this is a general comment for everybody out there who is the person who has to put that time in to learn a game before your friends come round and play. It shouldn't be like that, and it doesn't have to be like that. Why should you have to go through and do all of that work for their enjoyment? That's not fair. It should be a shared thing. And I refer to what we're going to be doing a week on Friday. Peter and Rob are coming round here, and we're going to be playing Ginkopolis. Am I going to read the rulebook beforehand? Am I going to watch some videos beforehand? Am I going to do a practice game beforehand? No, because I don't have time. I don't have time to do that. It's not a sponsored video, and I simply don't have the 4, 5, 6 hours it would take in preparation to be able to then teach them how to play. If it was a sponsored video, of course I'd do that because I'm being paid to do it, but it's not, and I simply don't have that time. And it's unfair for anybody to expect me to have the amount of time to do that. So we're going to do it together. Right, the last questions. So thank you very much. No more questions from now on. The last questions for today. Stubbsy, how do I learn games best? Video solo rulebook reading. How do I learn games best? This follows on from exactly what I was just saying with Sean. And this is not just me. This is scientifically proven as the best way to learn anything is you learn by doing. So the best way for me to learn how to play a game is to sit there, get the game out, get the rulebook out, and actually learn as I'm playing it. It's the best way that I learn. And as I say, it's been proved that that is the best way that people learn. You can read a rulebook, and you can sort of learn it from reading a rulebook. You can watch a video if you want to watch a video. But it's only when you actually start physically moving the pieces around and seeing how it all fits together that you go, ah, right, yeah. Now, there are some people here who can read a rule book and then go, right, I know now the game absolutely perfectly, I'm going to go play it. There are some people who can watch a video and then go and play it perfectly, right? But not many. The best way of learning a game is by doing it. Next question from Matisse, what is my favourite game mechanic and why? I've got lots of them. I like worker placement. I like deck building. I love resource conversion. Resource conversion is probably my favourite one. So you give me any game where I can convert, 2 pieces of wood into a chair and then combine 4 chairs and a table to make a dining room. And then I can, anything like that. So games like Le Havre, Ora et Labora, games where you're converting some resources into other resources. I love those. And the final question today from Mark, it's still early, but am I excited about any Essen releases for this year? Well, I don't know of that many Essen releases for this year. I know about the new one from Czech Games Edition, which I'm not allowed to talk about because it hasn't been publicly announced yet, but I'm excited about that. I'm also excited about Vladimir Suchy's new game, Evacuation, because his games are always fantastic. So I'm looking forward to that. Also, he's got the rights back to Shipyard, and they're going to be doing a new version of Shipyard. So we're having 2 games from him through Delicious Games this year. I think they're both coming out this year. But yeah, Vladimir Suchy's new game, Evacuation, I'm looking forward to that. As for other games that are coming out at Essen this year, I don't know. I absolutely have no idea what's coming out at Essen this year yet, other than that one. Nearer the time, I will start looking at other people's Essen wish lists, and I will see what games they've got coming out. In fact, I did find out about a new game coming from Board and Dice this morning, which I'm not allowed to talk about, but yeah, I'm looking forward to that already. So from what they told me about it. Anyway, that's it. We're all done. Thank you very much to everybody for watching today, and thank you very much to everybody who's been watching back afterwards. Just as a reminder, if you've been watching this video either live or if you're watching it afterwards, give the video a thumbs up, but also don't forget to enter the contest. Vicky will put a link into the contest now. And all you need to do is click on the form, fill it in, and you could win £50 worth of game vouchers. Just to give you an idea, I did say these videos get about 1,000 views. We only get about 150 people entering the contest. So yeah, you might as well enter the contest. It's very simple. Just go in there, and the secret word is BAYCON, BAYCON, which is the name of the convention that I will be at for the next 3 days. So don't expect any content from me in the next 3 days. Although if I'm awake enough when I get home, I might do a quick live stream of what I've been up to that day. We'll see. Vicky might be asleep by the time I get home. I'm not sure. But I might do that. Otherwise, I'll be back on Sunday with Teotihuacan Deluxe Edition. Set your calendars, set your reminders. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, UK time on Sunday, I'm going to be showing off Teotihuacan Deluxe Edition with a 3-player playthrough. I think it's going to be 3-player. I think it's me, Tom, and Mark. Yeah. Other than that, get on the guild. Don't forget, guild number 2258. Hopefully there will be some questions on the guild from the ones that have been asked today, and I'm really looking forward to other people's answers to them. And I think that's everything. Deborah's going to be at Bacon. Remind me, Deborah, I'll see you tomorrow morning. I'll introduce you to Becky, and I've got a badge for you. I've got a Patreon supporters badge for you. Yes, 3 days of bacon. Very right. Right, we're all done. Time for dinner. Then we're going into Exeter to pick up some lanterns for the wedding. Then I'm going to be packing for tomorrow. And that's it. Yeah, we're all done. Thanks very much for everybody for watching. Take care. Big thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. And if you are able to support the channel, patreon.com/gaming rules. Other than that, I'll see you all on Sunday. Bye-bye.